don't know what happens behind the show to get to the show.
Y'all ain't gonna know today.
I don't know what happens behind the show to get to the show.
Y'all ain't gonna know today.
I don't know what happens behind the show to get to the show. I am in stereo. Robin.
And repeat. Put yourself on mute.
Stereo. Robin.
And repeat. Put yourself on mute. Okay, so we're having a little bit of technical difficulties today.
That's better. Did you just mute me?
I did not. I can still hear you, but now we don't hear the echo.
Awesome. I had a lot of stuff open. Look, y'all. Look, okay, so it's been a minute since I have been here with my lovelies.
Welcome to the couch.
First of all, let's just call it out. We are live. Welcome. It's been a minute since the three of us have been together. We'll get to what our show's about. We'll get into the rhythm. But right now, I just need to call out a little something. I don't have a background. You don't have a background. And who has a background? If starting in, who would be least likely to have a background? I would have picked her.
Yeah.
Because we got a mommy alert. I was telling her, I was like, look, I think we need I know there's a technology that has the face that you can cover up the face because we don't want to put the lovelies on. But we're going to have a moment for you are here. You are looking
back.
You got a background. You have had technical difficulties. Welcome to the Pink Couch. Perfection is an idea that is never achieved. And go.
I love it. Well, perfection is sometimes achieved because I got perfection 16 weeks ago. So my little dewdrops made their grand entrance 16 weeks ago tomorrow. And they are perfection bundled in all things joyful. And if you hear something in the background, it might be them. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Listen, if you hear them in the background, consider it a blessing. Okay.
First of all, what's missing? I have one earring. What's happening? Let's just get.
I think the other one's at my house.
Oh yeah, there's that. No, listen, I'm going to say I had the absolute privilege and honor to spend 4 days, 3 sleepless nights with the perfections that are your daughters, your twin baby girls. I am obsessed. If anybody who is within a 3-degree radius of me that I can trust to not send information, 1 degree only gets the pictures. But 3, 4, 5, I'm getting on random business calls talking about, oh my God, my little nieces are everything. And I'm going through withdrawal. Like legit, my soul is aching. They are just so delicious.
Amazing. Oh my God. I get to sniff these babies all the time. So for those of you who have never been around newborns, there is a smell that comes with a child that is fresh into the world. I don't know if it's the innocence of the child that carries the smell or if it is just being fresh out of the womb. Child, I don't know. Amniotic fluid must smell good because I love to sniff these babies. And so I literally just lay there with one next to my nose and breathe her all in all day, as long as I can. It is so amazing. And I'm so happy that they are here and they have graced the world with their presence
and health.
And we've already figured out what their lives look like.
Oh yeah, we mapped it out. You might Rob might have, made some augmentations to the plan, so we don't have to talk about that. I'm just saying.
We don't have to talk about it.
There are no augmentations, honey. She gets one, I get one. She gets to show up to all the stuff for mine, and I get to show up to the stuff for hers, and she does not get to dictate what my baby does.
So, I want to say, amongst other things, I am very thankful for concealer. That's all I got to say.
That was so
I'm
random.
very grateful for concealer because I realized sleep deprivation is real.
Okay, so let me get us going for okay. We've already checked in with the lovelies, and at some time, maybe 20 years from now, people will be able to meet them. I'm sorry, it is your bad that you don't know them. So I'm gonna give the newest mommy officially to the clan the first stage because we don't know if baby girls are gonna be like boop, boop. So we want to. What are you checking in with today to the couch before we kick off on this show?
I I am checking in ready. So there's been a lot of transition besides mommyhood over the last few months. Shout out to baby sis because she's a new mommy too. Um, but I realize there is a very big difference between what one calls out as what they expect and what is really intended, the outcome of what one is doing. So the expectations and the intentions don't always match. And so right now I'm coming ready with what I bring is going to be your expectation because the intention.
I love it. I love it.
Where I am today.
I love it.
That
I
is
love that for you.
Thank you.
I love that for you. Kennedy and I've had many conversations. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
We love that for you.
The whole delegation says amen for that one.
Yeah. Our bar is like starts here and you always are like way up there. So I love that you are just like because your priorities have shifted and I love it. I love it. Shifted. Miss Kennedy of the Hills of the Garcias, what are you checking in with today?
You know what? I am in this space of gratitude and celebration today, right? First of all, let's just put it out there that we've been missing you, Gigi, on the couch. We are so happy that you are back with us. We know that it might be temporary because duty calls. And we're here for the duty, okay? But we're so happy to have you back. And so there could be nothing that brings my mood down for this next hour because I have my sister back on the couch with me, and I'm so excited about that. It is also scholarship season. We have kicked off at the Dream Academy, and so scholarship applications are coming in, and I'm reading some of the most amazing things that these young women are doing out here in the streets, y'all. And aside from the few minutes that I get to spend mentoring them and providing a scholarship award for them to go on to a 4-year university, the most amazing part of the work that I'm doing is just to see how great and fabulous this generation really is and how great they can be if they just had the resources they need to step into the fullness of what God created them for and to go off and do his will. And so I am in a great place today and I'm bringing all the celebrations to the couch.
Beautiful.
So can I get my check-in? I got a lot, but I'm gonna keep it short because I got to start with, the ticker tape. The Dr. Kennedy is in. So we have there, one of the things I wish I could remember who told me this because I'm a professional thief. People never stay where you put them. You know how you have a conversation, you're like, okay, you got it, you get it, and you walk away. They're like a weeble wobble. You're like, and they just start going like this. Or, people, you like, oh my gosh, Kennedy is doing this, but just so and she's also getting a PhD at the same dang time. And so I want to celebrate my sister Kennedy for getting her PhD. I wish I had my phone at the ready because I would, give you a so celebrate you with that because look, when I get mine, not if I get mine, I am going to require. I will not hear you if you call me Robin. You're going to call me Doctor. doctor. And there might be, we might be in a restaurant. Is there a doctor in the house? I might just like, anywho. So I want to celebrate you. I also want to celebrate, as we've talked about, Miss EJ, the mommy. But you've also, listen, Linda, listen. There's also this thing where, we as women who are wives, we as women who are wives with a career, we are women who are wives with a career in mother. We are women with wives, who are wives with a career in mother and friends. Women who, and in between, we're going to get a promotion out of it. Listen, I'm going to be real. I don't know who from your establishment is watching. I'm not going to give them a, or maybe I can, you can. It's one of these things, and I shared with her that, look, when my kids graduated from high school and they were saying, oh my gosh, all these people took out full age pads for congratulations. I'm like, you don't get it. For what? This is my Nigerian coming in. For what? You are expected to graduate from high school. Your promotion, there's a bit of, for what? It is so many years overdue. It's offensive to even congratulate you, but I will honor you in that with all that you have going on, you are still boom, boom, boom. And that's just all the boxes that we check. So yeah. I am here just because of the three of us are back together again.
I mean, okay, so hold on here because something's been missed. I feel like something has been carved out of this whole celebratory moment. So yes, there's a doctor in the house, and absolutely she deserved that promotion and should have got it years ago. I don't care who's watching. And we're happy that it happened and it's been recognized and that we're all on the same page now. But Ms. Robin Glasgow, some birdie tells me
chirp chirp
that there's a congratulations in the house for you, my love, for a new journey, not just a new role, but an entire journey where you are going to change lives and take your best friend to Paris Fashion Week.
I'm going to give a shout out to Alexis Styles because that is her birth name, Alexis Styles, that happens to be a fashionista.
I love it.
She's one of my bosses. And this woman I met her when she was like this, and then she moved her hands like this. I wish I had a demonstration, but her cuffs were magnificent. And the two of us, I don't know where Ashley is, but she's not here. We're like, because she had a whole moment on her, and she was en route to Paris Fashion Week. So listen, yes, I am living my best life, like looking both ways for across the street. This is too good to be true. I have found the unicorn firm. I've always been labeled a unicorn, and I found the firm where everybody lives. And it's taken 33 years of my life, because I'm 33, to find that. Okay, we're going to move on before there's anything else that's been said, but thank you. Okay. All right. So let's move into what we're talking about today. We spent a lot of time checking in and talked about what, but I want to go to not what's hot, because that's what's hot-ish. Sorry. That's why we don't have backgrounds. We had a producer. Anyway, we ain't gonna call it out. Any event, this is the show about life. And it has so many meanings. It is, we have been out there living our lives as we know how to, in blessings of kids and blessings of career and blessings of degrees and blessings of mentorship and blessings of relationships. We've been living our lives. And it's interesting because we've had everyone, I don't care who's watching, who's listening, who will watch this in the future. This is the great equalizer that we all experienced, this disruption of our life a few years ago. And because we've had this disruption, there's been a need to focus on what's important. We've been privy to what we didn't know. There's just been a lot of things happening in this thing that we call life. So we're going to spend the rest of our time exploring different topics of interest around this thing that we call life. And what I want to do is, when we talk about guns, newborns, Roe v. Wade, COVID, getting degrees, new careers, and so on. There's all these things that are happening despite what happened 2 years ago, and as a result of what happened 2 years ago. And just to me, I think what has just raised to the boiling point of what is so important in our nation, and we are incredibly divided. And we are not divided by, well, we've always been left to right. My ex-husband and I were opposite parties. That's not why he's my ex. But we were opposite parties. In my family, there's opposite parties. I actually think on this panel, there's probably opposite parties in terms of our overall journey. But I think what we are experiencing now, whether it's, some of the topics I mentioned, Roe v. Wade, the guns, formula, all these things that we have moved from left, right to common sense and ridiculous. And so what we do on the couch is we go in on uncomfortable conversations. I don't care what party you're in. I don't care what part of the country you're in. But when we as women, honestly, I do think, and let's be clear, our primary audience, although I know we have some lovely men out there supporting us, when we come together as women, we can have some moments that skew between common sense and ridiculous, but we tend to be the chief executive officer, financial officer, marketing officer, experience officer in our households. And so we're about to have an adult conversation about some of these topics. So I'm going to kick it off to you, Miss Kenny, to talk about the hypocrisy of it all. Take it away.
Whew. So thank you for the intro, because you laid a lot out there.
I sure did.
And it's interesting because the thing that all of those elements had in common was life, right? So newborns and Roe versus Wade and guns and all of the things. It's like, how are we living this life that we have right now? And the hypocrisy. So I'm going to just dive into it because I understand the assignment. I heard the question, right? The hypocrisy to me as a Christian woman who does not feel like we need to throw our views into everything to make it political. I'm really struggling. I'm struggling for a few reasons. I'm struggling because I want every single person to understand that life is important, whether it is born or unborn. And to me, life that exists needs to be a precedence, needs to be a priority, needs to be something that we are focused on today. So while we're sitting around arguing about unborn life and when life starts and when a woman has the right to choose to end that life, why are we not spending that same energy on the life that is here today? Why are we not protecting our children in these schools when they're getting shot by these mass shooters? Why are we not putting safe legislation, smart legislation in place to protect the people who exist? Why was it okay to have a knee on the neck of a man simply because of what he looks like until he no longer had life? But we're all fighting to protect life that isn't even here. And so to me, it is very difficult to live with the hypocrisy of hiding behind the veil of, I am pro life. I am too. And I'm pro life about the people who are living and breathing and sitting here in this world right now. And I need people to get on board with that.
Is there a follow-up?
Well, let's talk hypocrisy, because that's where you started. Let's dig a little bit more into hypocrisy. So, do we value human life? And whose life do we value over whom else's? And are we being very clear to articulate that the value of one life is less important than the value of another? I'll take you a step further. I have military and I have law enforcement in my family and people very close to me. I can't wrap my arms around how children sat being tortured and teachers for over 50 minutes and nobody went in to stop it. Okay. So you talk about pro-life and the importance of life. Who's protecting the lives once they're here? How do you wrap your arms around that? And I understand, everybody is not at fault, but some things really need to change.
So I'm going to ask you a question, because you raise an excellent point. And so even if we were to focus on lives that are not here, right? So going back to the whole Roe v. Wade situation, can you tell me why in a country where maternity mortality is still an issue, we are having conversations about forcing women to carry forward a pregnancy? We can't keep the women safe 18% of the time when they go in to deliver, but we're forcing 100% of them to go through that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when you ask the question about how do we value life, is it one life is better than another or more valuable than another? How did we get here? How do we get to this place where this is even the conversation we're having in 2022?
Fundamentally, it goes back to who's making the decisions and who's allowing those decisions to be made. People have lost their voice. And quite frankly, when you get into situations like Roe Wade, like the gun issue, we've protested. I've been out there pre-COVID. I've been out there. What's come of it? What's come of it? So you become disheartened. And it's even better when you go to protest peacefully and then there's shooting or there's riots. So how do you get the right to resolve with the left? And that's that's what I am wrestling with wholeheartedly right now. And just the pure hypocrisy, the hypocrisy of, okay, let me just call a spade a spade. The attack on women in this country.
Let's go there.
Okay.
Let's go there.
So let's talk about it, because what rights, what authority, what grace, what elevation do we have as women?
Mm-hmm.
Formula shortage started and was declared maybe November of last year. Why is it now a crisis? Why are women not able to feed their children? But we can support and give money to war. Am I saying we shouldn't support? That's not where I'm going. What I'm saying is, how do you make the trade-off to say babies are important, women are, but I'm not going to give them the fundamentals. I'm going to force you to have a baby that you don't even know that you're going to be able to sustain because there's a formula shortage that still has not been resolved.
It's like, I want you to have the baby that I'm not necessarily, if you are a woman of color, might live through the birth of the baby, to then potentially not be able to feed the baby, to then send the baby to a school where our best answer, common sense, ridiculous, we're going to arm the teachers. I was in Colorado when Columbine happened. There was a manager there that had kids at that school while it was unfolding. My kids and I went to the movie theater where the guy shot up the movie theater. The grocery store in Boulder, Colorado was my grocery store. Lived in Oakland when the university happened. I can go on and on and on again. Guns are real for me. And let's be clear. I was on the rifle team in high school. I enjoy going to the gun range. I got a mark right here from shooting a 9mm that kicked back a little too hard. So this is not common sense ridiculous. This is not about taking guns away from. I am a wine drinker, and I believe there should be DUIs for people who aren't drinking responsibly and getting behind a car. I am a pro Second Amendment gun carrying. I'm not gun carrying right now. Wait, yes, I am. And I believe that there should be responsibility for who has access and how you use and training and all those things. And I can go on and on and on. At the end of the day, this is about, we are going to your point, EJ, around this attack on women, this attack on just, I think we are so held fast to our rights, our left, our right, our position, but we have lost common freaking sense.
Mm-hmm.
We have lost. I mean, just think about this. Help me understand. I want one of these gun carrying idiots. There are 90% that are not. Gun carrying idiots. Now, if it's one of your kids, what you gonna say?
You're definitely not going to use the Second Amendment issue. Yeah.
It's real. And there are people of color, let's just be clear, who are gun carrying idiots. And when stuff gets real, in terms of your spouse may not survive during the birth because of all that's going on with bias around healthcare and that this are we really talking about a formula shortage?
Right.
A formula shortage. Which is just of all the things I thought we would as a country struggle with, formula?
Yeah.
Come on.
But I think the formula shortage is illuminating to me. And I think that we talk about this being an attack on women, and I see some of that. But I also see this perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It is very easy for this country to get behind each other when there is an external cause of our pain, right? 9/11 happened. This country came together in a way I've never seen it since, right? And unfortunately, it took a disaster and something horrific for us to band together and be one. And I think people are searching for that thing that we can get together behind. And this abortion issue and the Roe v. Wade issue, to me, is it's easy to advocate for people who don't exist. They don't belong to a certain group that you've sworn off yet. They haven't cost the government any money, so we can't complain about where our taxes are going. They haven't been out in the street and looting during a riot because they're protesting grotesque things that are happening to their community. Right? So there's a list of things you can go down, which makes it very difficult for people to get behind a group and support and come together as one. And so they choose to protect and fight for something that's easy to support. It's easy to talk about the fact that God creates life and life deserves to live in its purpose, and we as humans don't have the right to take that away. So let's all band together and support the thing that's here. It's easy to support an unborn child, but it's difficult for some reason in this country to support the people who are already here, because whatever bias they've created in their minds about what that person is prevents them from getting behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting to your point. We just as humans, imagine how we show up differently when it's in our own family versus a stranger or a one-off. We are tougher on our family and we embrace the one-off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we will for the thing like, oh, isn't that cute? We will criticize our own for it. And I think at the end of the day, before we move on to the next topic, to me, it's around, we need to be very careful about many different things. And I think one of the biggest is that we have become so rooted in whatever crazy that we are stuck with. I have some crazy. Mine is very clear. I know my crazy. I label my crazy. My crazy is very aimed at what transpired, the ultimate of what transpired, mile and a half from my house here in DC. And so to me, I think this is all of these things that are bubbling up, whether, I think COVID was a great, well, there was a little bit before COVID, but COVID was a great unveil to expose a lot of this stuff. Roe v. Wade has been permeating for a while. All guns have been permeating for a while. The issue with women and all these things have been permeating for a while. But what hasn't, when COVID happened, it lifted the veil to force a lot of these conversations up. And to your point, Candy, that you talked about, this younger generation ain't gonna stand for it. And I don't think whatever happens this week is a ... Whether they uphold it, whether they oppose it, it's a ... Because I think the younger generation, I don't know, Gen Z, millennial, whatever that.
What are we on now?
I don't know. Gen XQ squared. I don't know.
Elemental people.
They are they're a larger force for those that are out there. They're a larger voting force than the baby boomer. There's no bigger force. They're going to shake it up a little bit. So I'm going to switch now to EJ. You alluded to this thing around the voice of women.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dive a little deeper around the voice of women.
So, and we laugh about this all the time, and we talk about, okay, what does that mean? The voice of the woman. That means nothing about me without me. I don't know how much simpler to make it. So it's funny. You triggered something when you just started talking about the here and now generation, because they're not as caught up in this is the role of women and this is the role of men. And there's some of that has, but they are about equity and justice. And so I just hope that more of that gets riled up and gets called to question. Because I want to call out, we talked about formula. We didn't talk about there's a tampon shortage. How about that?
I've aged out of tampon.
Okay. But I'm not going there. So But I mean, also think about things. What we haven't talked much about is the war. And that's hitting very close to home, the war in Ukraine, because the war started right when the girls were born.
Mhm.
So it's, there's a huge connection to it. And I just remember the imagery. And part of the imagery was we have to save the women and children.
Mm.
Right. And so there was still this notion of the men are going to stand back and fight, but we have to preserve the women and the children.
Mm-hmm.
So these women and children are now left without husbands and fathers. Right. So all that you're doing for are now these people who have to do for themselves. And we're sitting here in our current situation and existence. What are we going to do for ourselves as women? Go ahead.
No, so it's interesting. And as I have to call out that we're also in this place where we're talking about pronouns. And so I will admit I wouldn't say struggle, that's too aggressive of a word, where there is as we talk about women, there are some transgendered women that will not be able to reproduce, that will not be, so that's women and children, because they're not able to fend, they're not able to reproduce, whatever it is. That's that's what's behind let's save the women and save the children. And it's interesting for me, the journey that I've been on, it's less about I really don't do you all day, twice on Sundays. I don't have because I believe that, just because you have the melanin, just because you have the body parts, doesn't mean you're down for the cause. I'm always down for anybody who is going to be in support and give voice to women. But at the same time, there's this conversation that has elevated around this voice of women. And I'm just curious, this is going a little off script because that's not what we had talked about when we talk about the voice of women. What are we even talking about now?
So I want to jump in there because I think as soon as you said that, I was thinking and my light bulb went off and I was like, we are not a unilaterally thinking monolithic gender, right? And the voice of women it should be a collective voice of all of the different perspectives that make up what we see as important to us as women, what we think we can do as women, what we want to pursue as women. And shout out to the women in Ukraine who said, I'm not leaving just because I'm a woman.
Right.
I can carry a rifle just like he can, and I'm going to protect my country. I know two girls who were pageant girls who decided to trade their crown in for an AK-47.
How about that?
Right. And so it's really, to me, the voice of women is really about allowing us to step into the fullness of what we think that means, and not prohibiting us from doing things, and not putting us in a box and saying that because we can't. Right. I also err to the nothing about me or for me without me. Right. I love that. We should make a t-shirt that's
I credit him. I don't know if he's the originator of it, but I credit him. Nothing about without me.
Like I feel like we're having these conversations about things that impact our bodies and our lives and our faith without seeing us at the table to drive those discussions.
And you said something that even as we're talking about it, you said it and I was like, oh, it's in us, because it was, we should be allowed to. Who do we need to get permission from?
How about that? How about that?
So
yeah.
But my point is, and when I'm questioning in my head, I'm like, it's because someone has to release or someone has to take hold. And it is, I struggle with, how do we get from here to there?
Listen, my whole thing had been, I used to be, this whole thing of good, better, best. I used to be, oh, I just want to be invited to the table, like back when I was half a second old. Then it was, I want to see the table. And now I'm this point of, why don't we just create our own table? I mean, why do we have to aspire to be at that table? With that said, however, comma, I have a visceral reaction going back to our previous conversation. You have white, cisgender males, mostly with law degrees, making a decision about what I can and cannot do with my situation about me? Is that where we are? Is that where we are?
Yeah, that's where we are. And nonetheless, making that decision based on something that actually, we're not supposed to be using as the foundation. So whatever happened to separation of church and state? So we're talking about, right? We're talking about what I use as my moral compass to guide me and the faith that I have, and me answering to Jesus and the God that I serve is between him and I on what I choose to do. That is what he died for. Yeah. So for me to take that now and to implement legislation that securely ties everyone else to my faith and my beliefs, I don't think that's how this country was supposed to be ran. I'm all for change. I'm the change guru, right? Yes. But are we really living in a world where there is separation of church and state if that's how we're making our decisions about people's health? I don't know. I wonder if that's really how we're living. And then you'll get people who will say, but our money says in God we trust. And, has there ever really been a separation of church and state?
All of that.
Right? All of the Pledge of Allegiance and all the things. And then I understand the Christian perspective, which is we are here to be a light for the world and to help others who are lost to lead a different life and lead them to Christ. And I believe that wholeheartedly. But I also can do that by having a relationship with that person. I can do that by making sure that my own children and my own household is living according to the principles that I believe in. Right. And I can make change that way. I don't actually have to legislate my belief system in order for me to feel like I'm being a Christian.
Can I pick that up? Because let's just, I am not a politician. I don't pretend to be one on TV. I struggle with, yes, I'm hired into a job, or even, let's just forget the politician component of it. The ones that are, out with the signs, out with the this, that, out with the that. And I get from, the Bible tells you to go preach and go gather and go bring others into the fold. I 100% get that. But how dare I inflict my situation to the point to judgment? I don't understand that. To me, I'm just like, this is me. This is what I'm doing. I can do with mine, my kids, and but for me to inflict my judgment on someone else that thou shalt, without knowing your situation, circumstance, and pass judgment, how dare you? Common sense.
Well, we talk about the land of the free and the home of the brave. According to who? Because now we have qualifiers. When you talked about the moral compass, all I could think about was, so is my moral compass wrong if it doesn't align with your moral compass? What happened to the land of the free?
Hypocrisy of it all.
Hypocrisy at its finest. Okay, but here's the most hypocritical thing about it, y'all. This is where I'm really struggling. I am struggling. Why are women the ones who are always the criminal when laws change, or when they start to put restrictions on, or when they want, right? Why are we in certain states trying to pass legislation to criminalize the act of women's health decisions. And the men who helped to create this unborn child
There are
go
no
without no consequence.
nothing.
Listen, I have to say, because I'm a fake lawyer, did not go to school for it. But when you have crimes against women, there's a lesser sentence, higher burden of proof, lesser sentence than murder, than theft, than some of these other things. That this is again going back to women. Our roles were defined early on, never to have ever advanced. And we'll get to this at the end of the show. We got to move on to this, the next little situation around why this matters. But there definitely are some things I think we as women should do. I often say all of us are in the healthcare industry in different places, whether it's mental health and the government advocacy, whether it's the supplier diversity and strategies around bringing more into the tent, whether it's finding amazing talent with Spencer Stuart, should you need to find talent to fill your board.
Come back.
Please contact any of the many amazing consultants at Spencer Stuart. I digress. And I completely lost my point because that's such a mic drop moment. So let's move on. Let's move on to why this matters. And that's going to be a short tee up into, we always do at Pink Couch. There's one part of let's talk about it, but there is 3 parts, let's be about it. So let's talk about why does all this matter? The hypocrisy, the voice of women, why does this matter? And
it matters. It matters because there's a common thread that goes through all of it, right? And again, another part I don't understand. So the government is part of this common thread.
Yeah.
And here's what I don't understand. My friends that sit with me on the right who say we are anti-establishment. We are anti this. We don't like the government in our business. The government shouldn't be providing things for the poor, right? So they want the government out of everything, but then in the same breath turn around and say, but the government should make sure that abortion never happens. Bruh, which one is it? Do we want them in everything, or do we just want them in the things?
People should have guns. Access to guns. So yeah,
I'm not getting rid of my gun. Yeah. But I also am an individual of good health, both physically and mentally. And should that ever change, I would voluntarily give that up because I would never want to do anything that would take a life or put anyone in danger. I am a responsible gun owner. And I also do not have a problem with background checks. You want to check my background, check it.
Why would you?
I don't have a problem with that. You want me to go on a wait list for 90 days before you issue me a new license to carry? Not a problem. I'll wait my 90 days. Do I ever think I need to own an AR-57? Absolutely not. My friends who are in the military, my family members who are in the military, my father who was in the military and a law enforcement officer, didn't have one at home. So why do I think I need that kind of artillery to protect myself and my family? I don't feel like I need that. And I don't ever think anyone else outside of military and law enforcement needs that. But I'm happy that I have a Second Amendment right to carry and bear arms.
Yeah.
And so I support having common sense gun laws, but I also support the Second Amendment, right? So it's like we keep getting into this, we don't want the government, but we want the government.
Yeah.
Pick and choose, like you can't do that. It's either one or the other.
Thou shalt not judge, you evil heathen, for getting an abortion.
Listen, I mean, we crack jokes about this and we talk about, at least for me, and judgy or not, judgy or be judged, right? And it's like only God is supposed to be doing that. We fall short because we think that we are the judge, the jury, the executioner. Right. And what we really need to be clear about is I don't believe there is a woman who arrives at the decision of whether or not she is going to continue or terminate a pregnancy easily.
Right.
And we are disregarding all of the emotion
Right.
and all of the thought that she has taken into consideration with the decision that she is making. We are acting like women are just in droves making decisions and using it as birth control.
Listen,
It is very frustrating to me.
I'm going to say something controversial, but hear
Well,
me out.
Go ahead.
Hear me out. I'm sorry. Roe v. Wade, hear me out. I am okay if it's overturned. I'm okay if it's overturned. Here's why. Because I don't think government should be in this conversation. I just don't think. This is between me, my family, and why there are laws around that. I don't think government, white cis men, the decisions are being made. Supreme Court, Senate, House of Representatives. These decisions are heavily populated with men. I challenge anybody to show me the percentage of them that come from a healthcare background. There might be one, and I think he probably escaped from somewhere. And there's one. So I would say, to me, I think that I'm okay with it being overturned, but not to the detriment of what the overturn means. It's
Right.
criminal. It's all this. I just think it should go away and mind your business. Mind your business.
The problem is it was put in place to protect
I
people
get it.
in states that
I
are
get
going to
it.
create their own
100%
legislation.
I get it. And you know, and I have a lot of wishes. You know, I do wish unicorns really came down in form. But my purest thought is around that. We are not there.
No.
We are not there.
But that's why this matters, right?
But it also matters, and I just, what I would say is, I'm going to agree with you slightly, Kenny, which is there are some women who flippantly will go and get an abortion. It exists. It exists. The same way as but it exists. There are those women out there.
There are some people who will flippantly get a gun to do harm.
Well, I will tell you, because and you were there. I was like, I need to protect I need to understand. I need to go to the range. I need to. And we had a friend who took me to the range so that I would understand, right? And so I could learn. And I was Susie. I was
I don't want you to own a gun, no.
Hold on. I was in it. I was like, I'm here. I'm about
I don't want you to own a gun. You're too scary. I don't need you to own a gun. You would shoot the plumber.
Yeah, here's my point. I walked in there and they were like, well, what kind of gun do you want to shoot? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to? I don't know. Well, what kind of, what kind of bullets do you gonna give me real bullet to shoot? Oh, we didn't talk about that part. And literally, like, went in there, and then I'm in this range, and I was like, I can see you, and I can see you. Y'all can shoot me. This is not for me. This is not. But had you asked me 24 hours earlier and leading up to that point, I was like, this is when it's my right, and it's my. And you're put in the situation because I was responsible about, okay, let me figure out how this happened. I was like, this isn't for me.
It's not for you.
But it's not for me. But I can't say that it's not for somebody else.
Right. Not your place to say. You can contribute to the conversation, but to dictate, I mean, what business is that? I mean, Anyway. So as I mentioned, we always, part of this conversation and why we do the Pink Couch is to bring up issues, but just not to talk about it, but be about it. So when we talk about this part of our show of Let's Do Something, there's 4 things I want to share. And one is around this thing called empathy. And we have lost that as a country. I think we gained some of that with respect to George Floyd, and it is interesting that that was the vehicle, but that's where we are. I'm okay with that. But we have lost this moment of being empathetic. To your point, Kennedy, that I don't think women wake up like, oh, let me go get an abortion today. That's a tough conversation. I think as we think about formula, if you don't have newborns who need that formula, we're not in a place to empathize. With guns, if you have not had a direct experience, it's the Heisman. You're too far away from it. If you don't have all those direct experiences, we tend to have lacked empathy. So I challenge everybody who's listening to this now, who will listen to this in the future, to take a position of empathy, even if they own the ridiculous. And at some point you might need to back up, because I do think to have a real conversation, you have to come with equal footing. Equal footing meaning I'm willing to listen to you. You need to be willing to listen to me. Second thing I'll say is educate yourself. So there are, it's amazing how much, and I am a news junkie. I will listen to anything, anywhere, anytime. Sometimes I have to turn it off, and it is agnostic of what news station it is. Some go on for like a documentary, 12-part series, 10 hours each. Each episode. Some will just give a sound bite as if it doesn't matter. Either I watch them all, some longer than others, and it just really depends on the topic. But I also invite people to get a non-commentator, because a lot of those national, the CNN, the MSNBCs, the Fox are commentators. They're not necessarily journalists. There's a difference. A journalist is the equivalent to the weather person. I don't like that there's a tornado out there, but there's a tornado. Duck and cover. There's not going to be anybody, we might have some people who try to ride out a hurricane, but that's neither here nor there. But for, there's a tornado. No one's going to say, well, that really wasn't a tornado. That was just look, just report the news and keep it moving. We're in a land of commentating. So find other places, neutral places of education. Please don't use social media as your primary source. You can use it to find out, but then use that as a spark to go learn more about. My third, I'm going to save for my last. I'll go here and vote. Vote locally. We get so seduced by who's going to run for the RNC, who ran this, he's not doing, they're not doing. At the end of the day, it's fascinating for anybody who chooses to be the president of the United States of these Americas. Because honestly, a lot of the power exists in your local government, your schools, your roads, your ability to fill in blank here is your local. We need to get just as enticed and excited about those local voting, because all this that we talked about shows up in your voting and lack of. And just because your person, your candidate, your issue didn't win, I'm like, oh, I didn't vote because I didn't win. Come on now. Have you ever played a sport? Not everybody gets the blue ribbon first place on the first try. Vote. And that is one thing around judgment. I'm sorry. It is, you do not deserve the right to complain until you have taken your butt to the ballot. Period. End of story. Once you put your mark down for the person, the cause, then you can go forth and prosper. But until that, you're just a commentator. And last, we talked about judgment. Look, just don't do it. That's all I'm gonna say. Stay in your lane of, we don't like to be judged as individuals. So it's the golden rule of don't do what you don't want done to you, and try and stay out of that business of judgment, except for voting. Go vote locally. So we are running out of time. Kennedy, I'm gonna throw it to you for the last word and bring us home.
Yeah, I'm not going to keep y'all long, because the last word is this, right? at the end of the day, you need to do what's best for you. And whatever compass you're using to drive your own decisions, make sure that your house is in order. Because when God comes back to take us all with him to heaven in the rapture, he is not going to be looking for your voting record. He is not going to be looking for what you marched at the Capitol and did to destroy property while you complained about somebody else doing that at the Rite Aid. He is going to say, well done, thy good and faithful servant, over what you've done in your own life and in your own house. Your own house is your first ministry. And so we spent all of our energy making sure our houses were made out of brick and not glass. And we would need to keep our own bricks to do that instead of throwing them at somebody else. So that is my final word. And I hope that if there's anything that you take away from this, that you look really long and hard at yourself and the things that you can change inside, and then let everybody else worry about their own business.
And with that,